My daughter Amanda arrived at my doorstep on Father's Day with a crumpled gift bag, but her condescending smile made my stomach drop. "Happy Father's Day, Dad," she announced, while her husband Derek smirked behind her. "We got you something practical since you're always complaining about holes in your socks." I opened the bag to find discount socks with the price tag still attached, $12. And when they showed up on social media 3 hours later, with her father-in-law Richard wearing a gleaming $9,500 Rolex, captioned, "To the best father-in-law, a gift that matches your class," everything clicked into place. 7 weeks later, Amanda stood on my doorstep begging for forgiveness, stripped of everything she'd taken for granted. They never saw it coming. But that morning, everything had been different. I prepared coffee in the same blue mug Catherine had given me 23 years ago. The house felt too quiet, the way it had every morning since she'd passed, but Father's Day always amplified that silence into something almost unbearable. I'd been awake since 5:30, unable to sleep, wondering if Amanda would remember to call or visit like she'd promised last month during our brief phone conversation. The coffee maker gurgled its familiar song. I'd bought it at Target 7 years ago for $42, and it still worked perfectly. Unlike the expensive espresso machine Amanda had insisted I didn't need when I'd mentioned wanting one. The doorbell rang at 9:47. I wiped my hands on the dish towel and walked through the living room, past the photographs that documented Amanda's life from infancy to her wedding 3 years ago. Each frame represented a moment I'd cherished, a memory I'd protected and nurtured through the lean years after Catherine's death. The medical bills had nearly bankrupted us, but I'd kept Amanda's college fund intact, refusing to touch a single dollar of the $38,000 I paid annually for her education at Boston University. Amanda stood on my porch in designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Derek towered behind her, his Tag Heuer watch catching the morning light. "Happy Father's Day, Dad." Amanda's hug felt perfunctory. "Come in, come in." I stepped aside, gesturing toward the living room. "I just made coffee. Can I get you both some?" Derek wrinkled his nose slightly. "We can't stay long. We have brunch reservations with my parents at 11. The words landed like a small knife between my ribs, but I kept my smile fixed. Of course they had plans with Richard and Susan. They always did. Derek's parents lived in Beacon Hill in a brownstone worth $3.7 million, and every gathering at their home reminded me of exactly how far apart our worlds had become since Amanda's marriage. "We brought you a gift." Amanda thrust the bag toward me, its paper handle slightly crumpled. She didn't meet my eyes as I took it, her gaze sliding toward the photographs on my wall instead. "Just something we thought you could use." I reached into the bag and pulled out 3 pairs of socks, gray, black, and navy blue, the kind you'd find in a discount bin at a department store. The price tag dangled from one pair, $11.99 for the 3-pack. "Socks!" The word came out flat. "You mentioned last month that yours had holes," Amanda said brightly, her tone suggesting this was a thoughtful, generous gesture. "These are really good quality. Derek's uncle works in textile manufacturing, and he says cotton polyester blends last the longest." I turned the package over in my hands. The plastic packaging crinkled. Behind Amanda, Derek checked his phone, his thumb scrolling with the practiced ease of someone who had better places to be. The Tag Heuer on his wrist probably cost $6,000. I'd researched it after seeing it at their wedding, curious about the casual wealth Derek's family displayed like breathing. "Thank you," I said, "because that's what fathers do. We accept what we're given and pretend it's enough." "This is very practical." Amanda's shoulders relaxed. She'd been tense, I realized, worried I might say something about the obvious disparity between this gift and the $38,000 I'd sent her every year for 4 years, while she earned her degree in marketing. Or perhaps worried I'd mentioned the $9,500 I'd wired her 3 months ago when she'd called, voice thick with tears, saying she needed money immediately for vital medical stuff. "We really have to go," Derek announced, already turning toward the door. "Traffic to the restaurant is always terrible on Sundays." Amanda kissed my cheek, the gesture quick and obligatory. "Love you, Dad. We'll see you soon." I watched them walk to Derek's Mercedes, a silver E-Class worth at least $70,000, and drive away. The socks sat on my coffee table, still in their crumpled gift bag, a monument to exactly how much I was worth in my daughter's estimation. $12. I'd sold my dream of owning a motorcycle for her college education. I'd canceled my plans for a mountain cabin retirement, liquidating the fund I'd been building since I was 30. I'd worked double shifts at the post office, sorting mail until my back screamed and my fingers went numb, all so Amanda could graduate debt-free and start her adult life with opportunities I'd never had. $12. The coffee had gone cold in my mug. I poured it down the sink and stood at the window. Mrs. Patterson across the street waved, and I waved back. My phone buzzed on the counter. A notification from Facebook, which I rarely checked but kept active because Amanda had insisted it was the best way for us to stay connected. I picked it up, intending to silence it, but the preview of the post stopped my thumb mid-swipe. Amanda had posted a photograph. Richard, Derek's father, sat at an elegant restaurant table, his arm extended to show off a watch that caught the light with unmistakable luxury. The Rolex gleamed on his wrist, its blue dial and silver bracelet instantly recognizable even in the phone's small screen. Richard's smile was broad, satisfied, the expression of a man who'd received exactly the kind of gift he deserved. The caption read, "To the best father-in-law, a gift that matches your class. So grateful for everything you do for us. Happy Father's Day to an amazing man." I stared at the photograph for 37 seconds. I counted them. Each second stretched and compressed simultaneously, time becoming elastic as my brain processed what I was seeing. $9,500. That's what a Rolex like that cost. I knew because I'd looked up Rolex prices after Amanda's frantic phone call 3 months ago, when she'd begged me to wire her money immediately. Her voice had shaken with what I'd believed was fear and urgency as she'd explained she needed exactly $9,500 for vital medical stuff that insurance wouldn't cover. She'd been vague about the details, crying too hard to explain clearly. And I hadn't pressed because what father demands explanations when his child is in crisis? I'd gone to the bank that afternoon, withdrawn the money from my retirement savings. The teller had asked if I was sure, noting it was a substantial amount, and I'd said yes because Amanda needed it. My daughter needed it. For medical stuff. Vital medical stuff. I zoomed in on the photograph. The Rolex details came into focus. The ceramic bezel, the oyster bracelet, the distinctive submariner design. Richard wore it with casual pride. The room tilted slightly. I sat down on my couch. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Derek had commented on Amanda's post. "Dad deserves only the best. Thanks for being such an incredible role model." The sock sat on my coffee table. $12. I opened my banking app and navigated to my transaction history. There it was, dated March the 17th, a wire transfer of $9,500 to Amanda Peterson. The memo line read, "Emergency medical assistance." My hands had stopped shaking. That surprised me. I'd expected them to tremble, expected some physical manifestation of the understanding spreading through my body like ice water in my veins. Instead, I felt strangely calm, the way the air feels right before a thunderstorm when everything goes still and waiting. I took a screenshot of Amanda's post. Then I took screenshots of the comments. Then I opened my Photos app and began scrolling backward through time, looking for every message, every email, every text where Amanda had asked for money over the past 3 years. The list was longer than I'd remembered. December 24th, 2 years ago. "Dad, our furnace died and the repair is $3,200. Can you help? We'll pay you. Back after Derek's bonus comes through." I'd sent the money. The payback never materialized. April 9th last year. "Emergency dental work, $4,800. Insurance denied the claim." I'd sent it the same day, September 3rd. "Car accident wasn't our fault, but we have to cover the deductible. $2,000. Sent immediately. Each request had come with urgency, with explanations that sounded reasonable in the moment, with promises of repayment that dissolved like morning fog. I'd believed every word because Amanda was my daughter, and what father doubts his child's honesty? I added up the amounts. $19,500 over 3 years, not counting the $9,500 from March. $29,000 total. The socks cost $12. My phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen, her contact photo showing her laughing at last year's 4th of July barbecue at Richard and Susan's estate. I'd taken that photo, standing at the edge of their pool while Amanda and Derek's friends splashed and drank cocktails that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I didn't answer. She called again immediately, then again. The phone vibrated in my hand like something alive and desperate, but I set it on the coffee table face down and walked to my bedroom. In the closet, behind the winter coats I rarely needed in Boston's mild winters, I found the cardboard box where I kept important documents. Catherine's death certificate, our marriage license, Amanda's birth certificate. My will, drafted 17 years ago, leaving everything to Amanda. Everything. My house, paid off after 30 years of mortgage payments, was worth approximately $460,000 in today's market. My retirement savings, even after Amanda's withdrawals, still contained $273,000. My life insurance policy would pay out $500,000. My pension was transferable to my beneficiary in a lump sum of approximately $380,000. Total, approximately $1,613,000. All of it designated for Amanda. I placed the will on my bed and stared at it for several minutes. The paper was cream-colored, slightly yellowed at the edges, the lawyer's letterhead, formal and official at the top. I'd signed it the year after Catherine died, wanting to ensure Amanda would be taken care of if anything happened to me. She'd been 14 then, still believing her father hung the moon, still trusting me to fix everything. My phone buzzed 19 times over the next hour. 19 calls from Amanda. I counted each one, watching the screen light up and go dark. Light up and go dark, a rhythm like a heartbeat. On the 20th call, she left a voicemail. "Daddy, please pick up. I can explain. It's not what you think. Please don't do this. Call me back. Please." Her voice shook. She was crying. The sound of it would have broken me yesterday morning, would have sent me scrambling to reassure her that everything was fine, that I understood, that fathers forgive. But that was before I'd seen the Rolex on Richard's wrist, before I'd done the math, before I'd realized that my daughter had looked at my life, at the sacrifices I'd made, the dreams I'd deferred, the decades I'd spent working myself nearly to death so she could have better, and decided it was worth exactly $12. I deleted the voicemail without listening to it again. At 7:15, I knocked on Patricia Morrison's door. Patricia had lived next door for 12 years, ever since her husband George died, and she'd downsized from their family home in Cambridge. She was 68, sharp as a tack, and had spent 40 years as a financial advisor before retiring. We'd fallen into a comfortable friendship built on shared morning coffees and an unspoken understanding that we were both navigating life after loss. "Robert," she opened the door with a smile that faded when she saw my face. "What's wrong?" "I need advice," I said, "the kind you used to give clients." She stepped aside immediately. I showed her everything. The Facebook post with Richard's Rolex, the bank records showing my wire transfer, the text messages from Amanda claiming medical emergencies, the gift bag with $12 socks still sitting on my coffee table where I'd left them. Patricia listened without interrupting, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she examined each piece of evidence. When I finished, she removed her glasses and set them on her coffee table with deliberate care. "How much are you worth?" she asked. "Total assets." "Approximately $1,600,000, give or take." "And your will?" "Everything goes to Amanda." Patricia nodded slowly, her expression neutral, but her eyes sharp. "First question, do you want revenge or do you want justice?" The question surprised me. I'd expected sympathy, perhaps anger on my behalf, but not this clinical assessment. What's the difference? Revenge is emotional. It feels good in the moment, but often backfires. Justice is systematic. It has consequences that last. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "I'm asking because the path you choose determines everything that comes next." I thought about Amanda's voice on the voicemail, the tears, the pleading, the daddy pleas that would have worked on me 24 hours ago. "Justice," I said. "Good." Patricia stood and walked to her desk, pulling out a legal pad and pen. Because I'm going to help you make sure she never does this to anyone else. She wrote in quick, efficient strokes, creating lists and timelines with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent decades navigating complex financial situations. First, we document everything. Every penny you've given her, every promise made, every lie told. Second, we update your will immediately. Third, we establish a paper trail showing fraud. Fraud. The word felt heavy in my mouth. She obtained $9,500 under false pretenses. That's textbook fraud, Robert. Patricia looked at me over her glasses. The question is whether you're willing to pursue it legally. I need to think about this, I said. Of course. Patricia set down her pen. But Robert, while you're thinking, consider this. Your daughter is 31 years old. She's married to a man whose family has considerable wealth. Yet she came to you, a retired postal worker, and lied about medical emergencies to extract money she used for status gifts. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. I walked home slowly. Mrs. Patterson was bringing in her trash cans and we exchanged waves again. My house looked exactly as I'd left it. Inside, my phone showed 37 missed calls from Amanda and 12 from Derek. There were also 3 text messages. Amanda, Dad, please, I'm so sorry. Please talk to me. Amanda, it was Derek's idea. I didn't want to, but his parents expected something nice. Derek, Mr. Peterson, we need to discuss this situation. Call me immediately. I read each message twice, then set the phone down without responding. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new document. Patricia was right about one thing. Documentation was essential. I began typing, creating a chronological record of every financial request Amanda had made over the past 3 years. December 24th, 2022. Furnace repair, $3,200, April 9th, 2023. Dental work, $4,800, September 3rd, 2023. Car deductible, $2,000, March 17th, 2024. Medical emergency, $9,500. Total, $19,500. Then I added the tuition payments, 4 years at $38,000 annually. $152,000. Total investment in Amanda's adult life, $171,500. Return on Father's Day, $12. I saved the document and created a new folder on my desktop labeled Financial Records. Over the next 2 hours, I gathered bank statements, screenshots of text messages, copies of wire transfer receipts. Every piece of evidence got saved, backed up to the cloud, and organized chronologically. At 11:40 p.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole to see Amanda and Derek standing on my porch. Amanda's face was blotchy and red, her mascara smudged. Derek stood behind her with his arms crossed, his expression a mixture of anger and impatience. I opened the door but left the screen door latched. "Dad," Amanda's voice cracked. "Please, let us in. We need to talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," I said. My voice sounded calm, almost detached, like I was discussing someone else's life. "It was a misunderstanding," Derek said. "Amanda told you she needed money for medical expenses because she didn't want to worry you with the details. My father had some health issues earlier this year, and we wanted to give him something meaningful to lift his spirits." The lie was smooth, practiced. "Richard's health issues," I repeated. "What kind of health issues?" Derek hesitated for half a second. "Heart problems, some concerning tests, results." "And giving him a $9,500 Rolex was medical treatment?" "It was emotional support," Amanda interjected. "The doctor said reducing stress was important, and we thought, you thought you'd lie to me about why you needed the money." I looked at my daughter through the screen door's mesh. This woman I'd raised and sacrificed for, and saw a stranger. "You called me crying, Amanda. You said it was vital. You said it was an emergency." "It felt like an emergency," she whispered. "Derek's parents had been so good to us, and we wanted to show our appreciation. With my money. We were going to pay you back," Derek said. "Once my commission from the Boylston Street deal comes through." "Stop," I held up my hand. "Just stop. I don't want to hear any more lies tonight." Amanda pressed her palm against the screen door. "Daddy, please, I know I messed up. I know the socks were stupid. I panicked because we'd spent so much on Richard's gift, and I didn't have money left for something better. but I love you. You know I love you." "Love," I said, tasting the word. "You love me $12 worth?" "That's not fair," Derek snapped. "You're being deliberately obtuse about this. Amanda made a mistake, but she's trying to apologize. The least you could do is be gracious about accepting it." Something in his tone, the entitlement, the assumption that I should simply absorb this betrayal and move on, crystallized my decision. Patricia's question echoed in my mind. "Do you want revenge or do you want justice?" "I want you both to leave," I said. "Now." "Dad, leave. Don't come back unless I invite you." I closed the door while Amanda was still talking, her voice rising into something between a plea and a demand. I turned off the porch light and walked to my bedroom, leaving them standing in the darkness. They knocked for another 7 minutes, I counted. Then their voices faded, followed by the sound of Derek's Mercedes starting and driving away. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with Patricia's legal pad and my laptop, creating a plan with the methodical precision of someone who'd spent 31 years sorting mail. Everything in its proper place, every piece of information organized and accessible. At 8 a.m., I called Patricia. "I want justice," I told her. "Good," she said. "Meet me at my house in 30 minutes. Bring everything." Patricia had already called her attorney, Marcus Chen. He arrived at 9:15. "Mr. Peterson." He shook my hand firmly. "Patricia briefed me on your situation. I believe we have several viable options." We sat at Patricia's dining room table. Marcus took notes. "First priority is updating your will. Second is documenting the fraud for potential legal action." "I want to file a police report," I said. Marcus looked up. "Filing a fraud complaint will trigger a criminal investigation. It could result in charges." "I understand. It will damage your relationship beyond repair." "I think Amanda managed that herself." Marcus nodded. "All right, let's start with the will." The new will took 47 minutes. Marcus worked from his laptop while Patricia and his paralegal witnessed. "Your estate is now divided," Marcus summarized. 30% to the Boston Children's Shelter, 30% to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society in memory of Catherine, 30% to a scholarship fund for postal workers' children, 10% to Patricia Morrison. "I don't need your money," Patricia protested. "It's not about need," I said. "It's about appreciation." "Now," Marcus said, "let's discuss the police report." We drove to the district police station at noon. The desk sergeant directed us to Detective Sarah Brennan. "Mr. Peterson," she gestured to chairs. "How can I help you?" I laid out the situation methodically. I showed her the Facebook post, bank records, Amanda's text messages, Derek's comment. Detective Brennan made notes. "This is fraud, Mr. Peterson. Obtaining money under false pretenses. The amount pushes it into felony territory." "I know. You understand that if I open an investigation, I'll need to interview your daughter. There will be a formal process. It could lead to criminal charges." "I understand. I have to ask, are you certain this is what you want?" "I'm done being stolen from." Detective Brennan nodded. "All right, I'll open a case file." The formal complaint took another hour to complete. Marcus drove me home. The car was quiet as we pulled up to my house. "Your daughter will likely contact you," Marcus said as we pulled up to my house. "Probably with lawyers of her own. Let them come." "You seem very calm about this." "I'm tired, Marcus. I'm 67 years old and I'm tired of being treated like an ATM with emotions." He handed me his card. "Call me if anything changes, or if you need to talk." I spent the rest of Monday organizing my financial records into binders. One for Amanda's requests, one for tuition payments, one for my current assets and estate planning. Patricia brought over dinner at 6, lasagna and salad, and we ate in comfortable silence. The kind that comes from shared understanding rather than awkwardness. "How do you feel?" she asked over coffee. "Empty," I admitted, "but also lighter somehow, like I've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down." "That's grief," she said. "You're grieving the daughter you thought you had." The words landed with unexpected accuracy. I was grieving. Not for Amanda herself, she was alive and well and probably furious, but for the illusion of who I'd believed her to be. The loving daughter, the grateful child, the woman who'd valued her father's sacrifices. That woman had never existed. Tuesday brought a call from Derek's attorney, a man named Philip Sutton, who introduced himself with the oily confidence of someone accustomed to intimidating people into submission. Mr. Peterson, he began, I represent Amanda and Derek Peterson regarding certain allegations you've made. My clients are deeply concerned about your recent erratic behavior and would like to resolve this matter amicably. Erratic behavior, I repeated. Filing a police report against your own daughter over what was clearly a misunderstanding suggests some concerning judgment issues. My clients wonder if perhaps you're experiencing some cognitive difficulties that might explain. Are you suggesting I'm senile? I'm suggesting that elderly individuals sometimes become confused about financial matters. If you'll withdraw your complaint and agree to a mediated family discussion, my clients are willing to forget about this incident. Tell your clients I'm not interested. Mr. Peterson, I should inform you that Amanda and Derek are considering a defamation suit. Your allegations have caused them significant emotional distress and could damage their reputations. They posted photographic evidence of the fraud on social media, I said. I'm just connecting the dots. Philip's tone hardened. I strongly advise you to reconsider. Legal proceedings will be expensive and exhausting. At your age, is this really how you want to spend your remaining years? My remaining years are my business. Tell Amanda that if she wants to talk, she can do it through Detective Brennan. I hung up before he could respond. Wednesday, Detective Brennan called with an update. We've confirmed the Rolex purchase. Your daughter and her husband bought it from a dealer in Newton on March 24th, 7 days after you wired them the money. The purchase price was $9,700, $200 more than you sent. They charged the difference to a credit card. So it's documented thoroughly. We've also interviewed Amanda. She initially claimed the medical emergency story was legitimate, then changed her story to say she'd meant emotional medical support for Richard. Her inconsistency strengthens the case. What happens now? I'm forwarding everything to the district attorney's office. They'll review for prosecution. Given the amount and the clear false pretenses, I'd estimate an 80% chance they'll file charges. That evening, I received an email from Richard Wellington, Derek's father. The subject line read, "We need to talk." Mr. Peterson, I've learned some disturbing information about the Rolex watch my daughter-in-law and son gave me for Father's Day. I was under the impression they purchased it with their own funds. Derek has now admitted the money came from you, obtained under false pretenses. I am not a man who accepts gifts purchased through deception. I want you to know that I knew nothing about this scheme, and I'm deeply troubled by my son's involvement. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I believe we both have an interest in seeing this situation resolved properly. Respectfully, Richard Wellington. I read the email 3 times, analyzing the language. Richard's tone suggested genuine surprise and anger, not at me, but at Amanda and Derek. That was interesting. It meant the facade was cracking beyond just my relationship with Amanda. I called the number Richard provided. Robert, Richard's voice was clipped. I'll be direct. What my son and your daughter did was unconscionable. I'm returning the Rolex tomorrow. I want no part of this. I appreciate that. More than that, I'm cutting Derek off financially. I've been supplementing their income. That ends now. I've also removed them as beneficiaries from my estate. The statement stunned me. Being removed from Richard's will meant Derek had lost his safety net. Fraud is theft, Robert. They lied to take your money. We talked briefly. Richard explained he'd contacted his attorney and called Derek's largest client, costing Derek approximately $320,000 in commissions. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen processing the cascade of consequences. Within days of receiving $12 socks, Amanda and Derek had lost millions in inheritance and income, all for a $9,500 Rolex. Thursday brought the Rolex. Richard had it delivered by courier with a note. This belongs to you. Do with it what you wish. I took it to a jeweler in downtown Boston. The owner examined it carefully. Rolex Submariner date, excellent condition. I can offer you $9,200. That's fine. He cut a check. I deposited it that afternoon into a separate account. Friday evening, Amanda and Derek appeared at my door again. They looked different this time. Derek's usual arrogance had crumbled into something desperate. Amanda's eyes were red-rimmed, her face bare of makeup. They didn't look like the confident couple who delivered $12 socks 5 days ago. Dad, Amanda's voice was small. Please, can we talk? I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We stood on my porch in the June twilight, moths circling the light fixture above our heads. Richard called Derek's biggest client, Derek said. His voice shook with barely controlled fury. We lost the Cambridge deal. That was over $300,000 in commissions. I know. You know. Derek's control slipped further. Did you tell Richard? Did you turn my own father against me? I didn't need to tell him anything. You posted evidence of your fraud on social media. He figured it out himself. It wasn't fraud, Amanda protested. We made a mistake. We panicked about the gift and made a stupid decision. But it wasn't fraud. You lied about a medical emergency to obtain $9,500. Then you used that money to buy a status gift for your father-in-law while giving me $12 socks. The police and the district attorney are calling it fraud. So is Richard. We've lost everything, Amanda whispered. Richard cut us off completely. He changed his will. Derek's business is falling apart because Richard called other clients too. We can't make our mortgage payments. Sell something, I suggested. Maybe Derek's Tag Heuer. That should cover a few months. Derek's jaw clenched. This is your fault. You vindictive old man. You couldn't just accept an apology and move on. You had to destroy our lives over one mistake. One mistake? I kept my voice level. Amanda, how much money have I given you over the past 3 years? She looked at the porch floor. $29,000, not counting tuition. $29,000 in emergencies that were never repaid. And when I asked for documentation of these emergencies, there never was any. Was there? No furnace receipts, no dental bills, no insurance claims. We needed that money, she said weakly. For what? Designer clothes? Expensive dinners? Maintaining the appearance that you belong in Richard's world? I shook my head. You used me as your personal bank, Amanda. You lied repeatedly. And when Father's Day came, you valued me at $12. Those socks were practical, Derek insisted. You don't need expensive gifts. You live in this tiny house. You drive that old Toyota. And whose fault is that? The question cut through Derek's sentence. Who paid $152,000 for Amanda's education? Who sold his motorcycle and his retirement cabin fund? Who worked double shifts for years so his daughter could graduate debt-free? Silence. I chose to sacrifice for Amanda, I continued. I chose to live modestly so she could have opportunities. But that was my choice and my sacrifice. It didn't give you the right to lie and steal. It didn't earn you the privilege of treating me like an ATM. Amanda was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. Please, we'll pay everything back, every dollar. Just help us fix this with Richard. Talk to him. He'll listen to you. Why would Richard listen to me? Because you're the victim, Derek exploded. You're the one we wronged. If you tell Richard you forgive us, he'll reconsider. The desperation was almost tangible, filling the space between us like smoke. They'd come here expecting the father they knew, the one who always forgave, always helped, always sacrificed for Amanda's happiness. They were still thinking of me as that man. I'm not talking to Richard, I said. What he does with his relationship with Derek is his choice. Just like what you did with my money was your choice. We'll be homeless, Amanda sobbed. We can't afford the mortgage without Derek's income. We'll lose the house. The house in question was a 4-bedroom colonial in Brookline that cost $895,000. I'd seen photos when they bought it 2 years ago, had listened to Amanda describe the marble countertops and the spa bathroom. She'd asked me to contribute to the down payment, just $50,000 to help us get started, and I'd refused for the first time in her adult life, saying my retirement funds were for retirement. She'd been cold to me for 3 months after that. Sell the house, I said. Downsize. Live within your means. Within our means. Derek's laugh was harsh. You're really going to lecture us about living within means when you're sitting on over $1 million in assets? Assets I earned through 31 years of work. Assets I sacrificed for. Assets that are mine to do with as I please. Assets that should be Amanda's, Derek shot back. She's your only child, your only family. Amanda made her choices. She chose to lie. She chose to value Richard over me. She chose $12 socks. I stepped back toward my door. Those choices have consequences. You're changing your will, aren't you? Amanda's voice was hollow. You're cutting me out. I didn't answer. Daddy, please, don't. I made mistakes, but I'm still your daughter. I'm still your family. Family doesn't lie to each other about medical emergencies. Family doesn't value you at $12 while giving your father-in-law $9,500. Family doesn't treat you like an ATM with a heartbeat. We'll fight this, Derek threatened. We'll sue for mental competency. You're 67 years old making erratic decisions. We'll prove you're not capable of managing your affairs. Try it. I met his eyes. Patricia Morrison is a witness to my mental competency. So is Marcus Chen. So is Detective Brennan. You'll lose, and you'll spend money you don't have on lawyers who will tell you the same thing. I went inside and locked the door while Derek was still formulating his next threat. Their voices continued on my porch for another few minutes, Amanda's pleading mixing with Derek's anger. Then their footsteps retreated, followed by the slam of car doors and the sound of their Mercedes driving away. The house felt quieter after they left, peaceful almost. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at my kitchen table, looking at the photographs on my wall. Amanda as a baby, Amanda on her first day of school, Amanda at her high school graduation, Amanda at her wedding, radiant in a dress that cost $8,300. I'd been at every milestone, paid for most of them, sacrificed continuously so she could have everything I had. And somewhere along the way, she'd learned to see me not as a father who loved her, but as a resource to be extracted and exploited. Patricia knocked on my back door at 8 p.m. I let her in, and she handed me a glass of wine, a good Cabernet from a bottle she'd brought from her house. I saw them leave, she said. You okay? Define okay. Still breathing, not actively bleeding, maintaining your resolve. Then yes, I'm okay. We sat in my living room. Patricia had brought the wine, some cheese, and crackers. The DA's office called Marcus, she said after a while. They're filing charges, felony fraud. Amanda will be arraigned next month. The information settled over me like, oh wait. I didn't want this, I said. You wanted justice. I know, but knowing my daughter is facing criminal charges, I stopped, unable to finish the thought. She's facing consequences, Patricia corrected gently. There's a difference. Consequences are what happen when choices meet reality. What Amanda did was illegal. What you're doing is refusing to enable her to keep doing it. Does that make it easier? No, but it makes it right. We finished the wine in silence. Patricia left at 10, squeezing my shoulder as she went. I cleaned up the dishes, turned off the lights, and went to bed. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of legal procedures and quiet routines. Detective Brennan called with updates. Marcus Chen filed paperwork. The district attorney's office scheduled Amanda's arraignment for July 8th. I didn't hear from Amanda directly, but her lawyer, not Derek's bombastic Philip Sutton, but a criminal defense attorney named Rebecca Moss, called to propose a plea deal. My client is willing to admit wrongdoing and repay the full amount, Rebecca said. Her voice was professional, efficient. In exchange, she's asking that you support a reduced charge, misdemeanor fraud instead of felony. What's the difference? Felony conviction means prison time and a permanent record. Misdemeanor means probation and community service. And repayment. Full restitution of $9,500 within 90 days. I thought about it for exactly 7 seconds. No deal. Mr. Peterson, I understand you're hurt. This isn't about hurt. This is about patterns. Amanda has lied to me repeatedly over years. She's shown no genuine remorse, only panic about consequences. A misdemeanor plea deal teaches her that tears and promises can erase fraud. She's your daughter, which makes what she did worse, not better. Rebecca tried for another 10 minutes, but I'd made my decision. The DA's office proceeded with felony charges. Amanda's arraignment was quick and procedural. I attended, sitting in the back of the courtroom, while Amanda stood before the judge in a conservative Navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She pled not guilty. Bail was set at $10,000. Derek paid it with a credit card. They left the courthouse without looking at me. Richard called that evening. I was at the courthouse, he said. I wanted to see this through, understand what my son had gotten involved in. And Amanda looked terrified. Derek looked angry. Neither of them looked remorseful. No, I agreed. They're not sorry they did it. They're sorry they got caught. Rebecca Moss is a good attorney, but she can't win this case. The evidence is overwhelming. Richard paused. Derek came to my office yesterday, begged me to help pay for Amanda's defense. What did you say? I said no. I also said that I'm selling the building where his office is located. He has 60 days to relocate. The vindictiveness surprised me, coming from Richard, who'd always seemed measured and controlled during our brief previous interactions. That seems harsh. Harsh would be ruining him completely. I'm capable of that, Robert. I have the resources and the connections. But I'm choosing restraint because, despite everything, he's still my son. However, I will not enable him to continue this pattern of deception and entitlement. We talked about consequences and choices, about the difficulty of watching our children face the results of their decisions. Richard understood in a way few others could. He was walking the same path I was, severing ties with his child not from lack of love, but from an abundance of self-respect. Trial was scheduled for September. I spent August preparing testimony with the district attorney, a sharp woman named Linda Vasquez. The trial lasted 3 days. Linda presented the evidence: bank records, Amanda's texts, the Facebook post, the jeweler's receipt. Each piece built an unassailable timeline of deception. I testified calmly, stating facts without embellishment. Amanda's attorney tried to create doubt, but the evidence held. Amanda testified through tears, claiming she'd panicked about finding an appropriate gift for Richard. But when asked if she'd told me the truth about how she'd used the money, she admitted she hadn't. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on 1 count of felony fraud. Amanda sobbed as the verdict was read. Derek's face went white. Sentencing was scheduled for October 7th. I walked out of the courthouse feeling no triumph. Patricia and Marcus took me to lunch. Richard joined us for coffee, having followed from the courthouse. Amanda's facing 2 to 5 years, he said quietly. Derek called me from the courthouse bathroom, begging me to hire better lawyers for appeal. What did you say? I said no. I also said that I'm filing for dissolution of their marriage, on behalf of Derek. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. What? I'm not leaving my son married to a convicted felon. I have attorneys drafting divorce papers. Derek will fight me, but I control his finances. He'll sign. The ruthlessness was breathtaking. Richard wasn't just severing ties with Amanda. He was systematically dismantling her entire life. Part of me understood his logic. Another part recoiled from the coldness of it. That seems extreme, I said carefully. Extreme was lying to you about medical emergencies. Extreme was committing fraud against her own father. I'm simply ensuring my family's reputation remains intact. Richard finished his coffee and stood. I don't expect you to understand, Robert. You still love your daughter despite what she did. I'm protecting my son whether he appreciates it or not. After Richard left, Patricia and I sat in silence. Do you, she asked finally, still love Amanda? I don't know anymore. I love who I thought she was. I'm not sure I know who she actually is. October 7th arrived. The courtroom was less crowded for sentencing. The judge reviewed the case. Ms. Peterson, you committed a calculated fraud against your own father. You exploited his love and trust for personal gain. The sentence, 3 years in prison, suspended after 18 months for good behavior. Additionally, 5 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and full restitution of $9,500 within 12 months. Amanda would serve 18 months if she stayed out of trouble. Derek stood as the bailiff approached Amanda. This is your fault, he shouted at me. You destroyed her life over a mistake. Amanda looked at me one last time before being led away. Outside, reporters waited. I declined to comment and left quickly. November brought routine again. Richard called occasionally with updates. Derek had filed for divorce from Amanda and was moving to Texas. Amanda sent letters 3 times a week. I returned them unopened. Rebecca Moss called once, asking if I'd visit Amanda in prison. I declined. December brought the first Christmas without Amanda. Patricia invited me for dinner with neighbors and Marcus Chen. We avoided discussing absent daughters. The $9,200 from the Rolex sale sat in its separate account, waiting for purpose. I'd thought about it extensively, discussed it with Patricia, prayed about it in the quiet way of someone who wasn't sure he believed, but hoped someone was listening. On December 23rd, I donated the entire amount to the Boston Children's Shelter, a facility that provided emergency housing and support services for homeless and abused children. The donation was made in Catherine's name, a memorial that transformed Amanda's betrayal into something constructive. The shelter's director called personally to thank me. "This money will help 17 children this month," she said. "You're changing lives." I wasn't sure about that, but I knew the money had found a better home than Richard's wrist or my retirement account. It had become something useful, something good, extracted from the ruins of my relationship with Amanda. January 2025 arrived with snow and bitter cold. Amanda would be released in April if her behavior remained good. I'd received notification from the court that she'd completed 3 months successfully, attending counseling sessions and working in the prison library. I didn't respond to the notification. Patricia and I had dinner every week now, alternating houses. She cooked on Wednesdays, I cooked on Saturdays. We talked about books and politics and the small dramas of neighborhood life. We didn't talk about Amanda unless I brought it up, which I rarely did. "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" Patricia asked one evening in late January. "I don't know, maybe, but forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation." "What does it mean then?" "It means I stop carrying the anger. It means I acknowledge she's broken and probably can't be fixed. It means I move forward without her." Patricia nodded slowly. "That's very mature." "It's very tired," I corrected. "I'm 67 years old, Patricia. I don't have time for prolonged anger, but I also don't have time for people who treat me like an ATM. February brought an unexpected letter, not from Amanda, but from Derek's attorney. Derek was requesting that I provide a statement for his divorce proceedings, confirming that Amanda had defrauded me and misused marital funds without his knowledge. I called Richard. "Did you know about this?" "Yes, Derek needs to prove Amanda acted independently to protect himself from financial liability. If he can show he was unaware of the fraud, he can avoid responsibility for the restitution." "But he was aware. He was standing in my living room when Amanda lied about the medical emergency. Can you prove that?" I thought about it. "No, the text messages were from Amanda's phone. Then technically, Derek can claim ignorance. He'll say Amanda handled all communication with you, that he believed the money was a gift or loan. That's another lie." "It's strategic truth," Richard corrected. "I'm not defending it, Robert. I'm explaining it. Derek is trying to salvage what he can from this wreckage." I declined to provide the statement. Let Derek's lawyers work harder for their lies. March arrived with the first hints of spring. Crocuses pushed through the snow in Patricia's garden. Birds returned to the trees outside my kitchen window. Life insisted on continuing despite everything. Amanda's release date was confirmed, April 7th. She'd served exactly 18 months. Rebecca Moss called to inform me, though I already knew from the court notifications. "Amanda would like to see you when she's released," Rebecca said. "No. She's required to make restitution. She'd like to discuss a payment plan. She can mail checks. I don't need to see her." "Mr. Peterson, she's your daughter. She served her time. Don't you think—" "I think Amanda made her choices and is living with the consequences. I don't owe her absolution or a relationship. If she wants to pay restitution, fine. But we have nothing else to discuss." April 7th came and went. I didn't mark it specially. Didn't think about Amanda walking out of prison into freedom. Patricia made dinner that evening, chicken piccata with asparagus, and we watched an old movie about baseball and second chances. "Do you think she'll try to contact you?" Patricia asked. "Probably. She's stubborn." "She gets that from you." I laughed, surprised. "Is that a compliment or an insult?" "Both, probably." 2 weeks after Amanda's release, she and Derek appeared at my door. They looked different. Amanda was thinner, her face marked by prison's toll. Derek looked older, his confidence completely gone, replaced by desperation. They stood on my porch like supplicants, hands clasped together. I opened the door but said nothing. "Dad," Amanda's voice cracked. "Please, can we talk?" "You have 3 minutes." We've lost everything, she said. The words tumbled out quickly, panicked. Richard cut us off completely. Derek's business failed. We can't find jobs because of my record. We're about to be homeless. I'm sorry to hear that. Can you help us? Derek asked. Just temporary assistance while we get back on our feet. A few thousand to cover rent and... No. Dad, please, Amanda begged. I know what I did was wrong. I've served my time. I've paid my debt to society. Don't you believe in second chances? Second chances are earned, not demanded. I'll pay you back, Amanda promised. The full $9,500 plus interest. I'll sign a contract. Whatever you want. I looked at my daughter, this woman who'd lied to me, defrauded me, valued me at $12, and was now standing on my porch begging for the forgiveness she'd never earned. Amanda, I said quietly, you didn't just make one mistake. You made a pattern of choices over years. You used me. You lied to me. You showed me exactly how much I was worth to you, $12. Now you want help because the consequences caught up with you. I was wrong, she sobbed. I know that now. Prison taught me. Prison taught you that actions have consequences. It didn't teach you empathy or honesty or respect. Those are things you should have learned before you committed fraud. So you're just going to let us be homeless? Derek demanded. After everything Amanda's been through? Everything Amanda's been through is the direct result of her choices. Not mine, hers. You're a vindictive old man, Derek spat. You destroyed her life over a watch. I destroyed nothing. Amanda destroyed her own life when she decided lying to her father was acceptable. You destroyed yours when you chose to participate. We're family, Amanda whispered. Doesn't that mean anything? Family means trust, respect, honesty. You threw those away when you decided I was worth $12. I closed the door while they were still talking, their voices rising into protests and pleas. They stayed on my porch for 7 more minutes, I counted, before finally leaving. Patricia appeared at my back door 20 minutes later with wine and sympathy. We sat in my kitchen while I processed what had happened. How do you feel? She asked. Sad, I admitted, but also relieved, like I needed to see them one more time to confirm I'd made the right choice. And did you? Confirm it? Yes. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry for the consequences. There's a difference. May brought warmth and renewal. I started planning a trip, something I'd never done, always putting Amanda's needs first. Patricia suggested we visit Maine together, spend a week exploring the coast. I agreed, booking a cottage in Bar Harbor for June. The restitution checks arrived monthly, $792, the amount Amanda's payment plan required. Each check was accompanied by a letter I didn't read. I deposited the checks and threw away the letters unopened. Richard called occasionally with updates. Derek had remarried, a woman he'd met in Texas, someone Richard had never spoken to. Amanda was working at a call center, barely making ends meet, living in a studio apartment in a less desirable part of Dorchester. Derek thinks you should help her, Richard said. He called me asking me to convince you. What did you tell him? I told him I agreed with you, that Amanda needed to learn to stand on her own without using her father as a financial safety net. June arrived with the trip to Maine. Patricia and I drove up the coast, stopping at lighthouses and seafood shacks, walking beaches and hiking trails. We talked about everything except absent children, enjoying the freedom of being present in the moment. One evening, sitting on the cottage's porch watching the sunset, Patricia asked, "Do you regret how things turned out?" I regret that Amanda made the choices she did. I don't regret holding her accountable. What about your relationship with her? There is no relationship. Maybe there never really was. Maybe I was in love with the idea of who I wanted her to be rather than who she actually was. That's very self-aware. It's very painful, I corrected, but pain doesn't make it less true. We sat in comfortable silence. August brought my 68th birthday. Patricia organized a small party. Just neighbors in the Thursday poker group. Marcus Chen came with his wife, bringing an excellent bottle of scotch. Mrs. Patterson made her famous apple pie. We ate too much, laughed at old stories, and celebrated the simple fact of survival. No one mentioned Amanda. September marked 1 year since the trial verdict. I received notification that Amanda had completed her probation successfully, had paid $4,754 of her restitution, and was scheduled to complete payment by March 2026. I filed the notification without emotion. October brought an unexpected phone call from Rebecca Moss. Mr. Peterson, I'm calling to inform you that Amanda has requested permission to contact you directly. She's completed counseling and believes she's ready to attempt reconciliation. Tell her no. She'd like to apologize in person. She feels she owes you that. She owes me $9,500. The rest is optional. Don't you want closure? I have closure, Ms. Moss. I closed the door when I realized my daughter valued me at $12. Everything since then has just been paperwork. Rebecca tried for another few minutes, but I was unmoved. Amanda had served her time, was paying restitution, had completed her legal obligations. But legal obligations didn't create emotional reconciliation. Those were separate things entirely. November brought Thanksgiving at Patricia's house. Her children came with grandchildren. It was a glimpse into what family could look like when built on mutual respect. Patricia's oldest daughter, Sarah, cornered me in the kitchen. Mom told me about your daughter, she said. I'm sorry you went through that. Thank you. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Your mom is a wise woman. She likes you a lot, you know. I looked at Sarah, surprised. We're friends. Friends who have dinner 3 times a week. Sarah smiled. I'm just saying, if you wanted it to be more, I think she'd be amenable. The conversation stayed with me. Catherine had been dead for 20 years. Was I allowed to move forward? December brought the second Christmas without Amanda. Patricia's family had returned to their respective coasts, leaving her alone for the holidays. On Christmas Eve, I knocked on her door with a proposition. Want to spend Christmas together? Nothing fancy, just dinner and company. Patricia smiled. I'd like that very much. We cooked together, a small turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans. We exchanged modest gifts. She gave me a first edition of a book I'd mentioned loving. I gave her tickets to a concert she'd wanted to attend. We watched It's a Wonderful Life and drank wine and talked about second acts and whether happy endings were possible at our age. I think they are, Patricia said. I think happy middles are possible too. Is that what this is? A happy middle? What would you like it to be? The question hung between us, full of possibility and risk. I thought about Catherine, about Amanda, about all the years I'd spent prioritizing others' happiness over my own. I thought about $12 socks and $9,500 watches and the price of dignity. I'd like it to be more, I said. Patricia's smile was gentle. Then let's see where more takes us. January 2026 brought completion of Amanda's restitution. The final check arrived on the 15th, $792, completing the court-ordered payment. With it came a letter longer than usual, which I opened for the first time. Dad, this is my last required payment. I've fulfilled my legal obligations, but I want you to know that I understand money isn't the real debt I owe you. I stole more than $9,500. I stole your trust, your respect, your belief in me. I stole the relationship we might have had if I'd made different choices. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking to see you. I understand why you don't want to. I'm just asking you to know that I finally understand what I lost. Not the inheritance, though that hurts. Not your support, though I desperately need it. I lost my father. I lost the man who sacrificed everything for me. I lost that because I decided you were worth $12 while valuing Derek's father at $9,500. The math of my choices is clear now. Prison gave me a lot of time to add it up. I hope you're happy. I hope you found peace. I hope someday you can think of me without pain. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but I'm sorry anyway. Amanda, I read the letter 3 times, then filed it with the court documents. The words felt genuine, suggesting real understanding rather than strategic manipulation. But words were cheap. Amanda had always been good with words, particularly when she wanted something. The test would be whether she maintained that understanding without expecting reward. February brought a Valentine's Day dinner with Patricia, our first official acknowledgement that we were more than friends. She wore a blue dress that made her eyes sparkle. I wore a new suit and felt nervous in a way I hadn't since courting Catherine 45 years ago. You clean up nice, Patricia teased. You make 68 look good. We went to a restaurant in the North End, ate Italian food, and drank wine and held hands across the table like teenagers. It felt simultaneously ridiculous and wonderful, this late-life romance built on shared loss and hard-won wisdom. What would Catherine think of this? Patricia asked over dessert. The question didn't hurt the way I'd expected. I think she'd be happy I wasn't alone. She always said I was terrible at solitude. What would George think? He'd probably wonder what took me so long to ask you out properly. We laughed, comfortable with the ghosts we carried, accepting that new love didn't erase old love, but simply made more room. March brought spring again, the cycle of seasons continuing, regardless of human drama. The park where I'd once pushed Amanda on swings bloomed with daffodils and crocuses. Patricia and I walked there on sunny afternoons, talking about retirement plans and travel dreams, and the small possibilities of days unencumbered by obligation. One afternoon, we encountered Mrs. Patterson at the park. Robert, she smiled broadly, and Patricia, don't you two look lovely together? We'd become visible as a couple, I realized. The neighborhood had noticed and approved, their acceptance a strange kind of blessing. Thank you, Margaret, I said. And how are things with Amanda? Mrs. Patterson asked, her tone carefully neutral. We don't have contact, I said simply. Ah. Margaret nodded, understanding more than the words conveyed. Well, sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we're born with. After she left, Patricia squeezed my hand. You okay? Yeah, I said, surprised to find it true. I really am. April 7th marked 2 years since Amanda's release from prison. I noted the date mentally but didn't dwell on it. Life had moved forward without her, filled with Patricia and friends and small pleasures I denied myself for decades while prioritizing Amanda's needs. May brought a decision. Patricia and I decided to move forward together. We found a small ranch in Arlington and moved in together that summer. August brought peace. On my 68th birthday, Patricia organized a small party with neighbors and friends. No one mentioned Amanda. The restitution checks arrived monthly. Each came with a letter I didn't read. By September, Amanda had paid half the required amount. One December afternoon, Patricia and I walked through the park where I'd once pushed Amanda on swings. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I said. For the first time in years, I feel free. She linked her arm through mine, and we walked in comfortable silence. Two people who'd learned that boundaries weren't cruelty, but survival. That saying no wasn't selfish, but necessary. The sun set over Boston. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new joys. But today, walking with Patricia, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions in the comments below.